Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video, doing a JMA Friday for today's second video. So, as always on a Friday, we're having a look at the weather for the month ahead with Japanese and CFS V2 models. And I shall get on with that for you very shortly. Just to say that the first video release day was our 7 AM forecast. I'm going to 10 to 14 day with all of the regular features coming up for you later on this afternoon. So please like, share, subscribe on all other videos. Thank you so much, everybody. Do that to be live streaming tonight after 10 o'clock. So we'll have our Friday night live stream. It'll be a bit of a laugh, and we'll see how we're all doing on this Friday evening. And that'll be after 10. Right, so let's get on with JMA Friday then. So I'm going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly chart for week 1 from the North Pole and Arctic view down. So, of course, this is the Arctic Circle just here, or the North Pole. This is a wider Arctic Circle around there, and they've got big latitudes round here. Yellow, orange, and red extrapolate to above average heights, which is high pressure. Blue to below average heights, which is low pressure. These are broken down into weekly periods. The first week period will take us from today, the 17th, through to the 24th of September. The coming week has deepening low pressure in the North Atlantic, below average heights around Greenland and Iceland. Above average heights, high pressure still clinging on by its fingertips over and to the east and northeast of the country. Scandinavian high goes on with a ridge into the Atlantic as well. But this low pressure is putting the high pressure increasingly under pressure and will bring, eventually will probably bring a breakdown to the high pressure and bring spells of rain through the course of next week, perhaps turning wet, windy and autumnal through the course of next week. That takes us through to week 2, which is going to be the 24th of September to the 1st of October. The above average heights are still there over Scandinavia, but sort of pushing back a little bit towards western Russia. We find below average heights appearing over to western the country. That looks much more unsettled, probably not overly cold. Probably still bringing wind up from like a southwesterly direction, but it does look a lot more unsettled that with the below average heights providing, spells of rain and perhaps some windy weather at times as well. So that looks a little bit more autumnal. Not for long, however. We go through to weeks 3 and 4. It's going to be the 1st to the 15th of October. And we find above average heights returning from the east. So we go back into high pressure again as we go through the first half of October. It looks like below pressure, but below average heights sort of push back into the middle of the Atlantic. That would be turning drier, I reckon. That's going to be turning drier through the first half of October. Depends on the exact wind direction as to whether that's particularly warm, really. It's Scandinavian high. The air is going to be coming off the continent. We are talking about sort of first half to the middle of October. We will be starting to cool the continent down very quickly under high pressure, before too much longer. So it might not necessarily be overly mild back. It just depends whether there's sort of a southerly component to the air, or whether the air is coming in more north of east. And, it makes a big difference at this sort of transitioning time of the year. But don't necessarily assume high pressure in October is going to be overly warm. It could actually start bringing sort of light frost, certainly ground frost anyway, and mist and fog patches. This is a tropical and mid-latitude view. So the Arctic, North Pole, Greenland, Scandinavia, all those areas are off the chart up here. So we can't see it, but we've had a look at that view down so we know what's going on. British Isles in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you are looking at it. Reminder of that week 1, 500 millibar height anomaly there with the area of, or the ridge of above average heights through the UK and going up to Scandinavia, which would be up there, low pressure, below average heights around Greenland and Iceland, which you can just make out at the top of the chart, and putting that ridge increasingly under pressure. The temperature anomaly is still warmer than average in the week ahead, so above average temperatures still to come. I don't know if it's going to be as excessively warm as that, to be honest, but Molly is going for significantly above average temperatures there. And a little bit wetter than average just to our northwest, nearer normal for rainfall in the south and southeast. It's a transitioning week that gets gradually more unsettled as we go along. Week 2 has that area of below average heights just to west of the UK and Ireland. Looks much more unsettled. The temperature anomaly still comes out warmer than average on the temperature anomaly scale, with 1 to 2 degrees above average. Again, I'm not particularly sure about that. And the precipitation anomaly is wetter than average, as you'd expect with low pressure breaking through. So obviously we end September on a much more unsettled. I would have thought, you know, probably a little bit cooler. No, really. I'm going to go through to week 3 and 4, which will be the 1st through to 15th of October, with the above average heights over the country and extending eastwards as well. If we come over here, we can see the above average heights extending eastwards too. Still warmer than average with a temperature rise, so it's a very warm 4 weeks coming up. If the JMA is right, it's really going to town on these above average temperatures. Again, solidly 1 to 2 degrees above average over the next month. And as high pressure begins to build back in from the east, we start to turn drier, particularly for England, Wales and Ireland. Still a little bit wetter than average though for Scotland. Yeah, I'm not sure about that idea of it being excessively warm, really. I reckon that by October, high pressure, depending on the exact origin of the air, of the wind and air mass, of course, could start to bring some cooler weather in off the continent, particularly notably so at night, I would have thought. So the model is looking at high pressure and assuming that it just carries on, you know, with the warm conditions. But it's not necessarily the case in October. It will depend on the exact origins of the air mass. If that air is starting to trickle in from north and east, then it will start to rapidly cool the continent down under that high pressure. Let's have a look at CFSV2. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period going to take us from the 17th to 23rd of September. The coming week again has this ridge from the Atlantic extending through the UK up to Scandinavia. Low pressure around Greenland and Iceland, putting that ridge under pressure. But for the weekend, we're still more or less under the high pressure. We go through to week 2, and it's all changed. It's 24th of September to the 30th, last day of the month, with a mid-Atlantic ridge extending up towards Greenland, below average heights covering much of northern, western, and even some eastern parts of Europe. Looks much more unsettled, and looks like it would be a lot cooler with that as well, with winds coming in from like a northerly, maybe even slightly northeasterly direction. So that's much cooler and wetter for the end of September. And then we go through to week 3, which will be the 1st through to the 7th of October. Again, with the below average heights over Scandinavia. And once more, we'll be pulling in the wind from like a northerly, northwesterly direction. High pressure a long way from us in the middle of the Atlantic and going over towards northeastern parts of America. So, yeah, we're looking significantly cooler again there as we begin October and potentially rather unsettled. Bit of a change to week 4, which is the 8th through to 14th of October. High pressure then begins to build to our east and south. Probably still some lower pressure around here, although it doesn't really show it. But one change of this, though, is that we are probably bringing in a milder sort of wind from the southwest. So after a cool and sort of unsettled start to October, it probably does get a little bit milder, but may still be a little bit on the unsettled side. Temperature anomalies for week 1, which is the 17th, 23rd of September, near normal to actually slightly below average, perhaps for southern parts of the country, a little bit above average for the far north of the country. You notice much of the continent looking really quite cool as well. That's very different to what the JMA is showing for temperature anomalies as early as week 1. I do think that the coming week will probably start to cool things down. We go through to week 2, and this is completely different to what JMA is showing. Temperature is 24th of September to the 30th, and we're cooler than average there, below average temperatures in that week. Most of Europe looking really quite cool. Maybe you can say pretty cold for the final week of September. It's much more in line with what I'm sort of expecting, actually, for the next week or so. Next couple of weeks, I do think we are going to cool things down quite significantly, you know, as we go into the final stages of the month. So that's more in line with what I'm anticipating rather than the warm weather that the JMA is showing. Week 3 is also cooler than average. This is the 1st and the 7th of October, so below average temperatures coming up then. By week 4, as the wind goes back into west-southwest, we start to revert nearer to normal. This is the 8th to 14th of October, nearer to normal too. For the northern part of the country, maybe slightly above average, actually. And the precipitation anomaly finally for week 1, 17th to 23rd of September, is drier than normal. Bear in mind we will transition into something a bit more unsettled with time though. Week 2 goes wet and average for England and Wales in particular. This is 24th to the 30th of September, and yes, slightly above average rainfall for England and Wales, nearer normal for Scotland and Ireland. No particular signal for week 3, which is the 1st through to the 7th of October. I would have thought that's probably still going to be quite an unsettled week, though. And again, no particular signal for week 4, either the 8th through to 14th of October. We've lost a signal there for precipitation, as we often do. Right, so we can see like a broad trend between the two models, which is to start off under high pressure over the next few days, and then we break it and we turn more unsettled. Exactly where the low pressure sits as we go into the last week of September determines the feel of things. The JMA has a low pressure to our west, which means we pull up like a southerly, southwesterly, and we keep it pretty warm, albeit much more unsettled. The CFS has a low pressure centred more towards our north and northeast. We pull in a cooler northwesterly, northerly, possibly even northeasterly. And so that explains the difference in temperatures for the last week of September. Then into early October, it looks like we keep things unsettled for a while, and then probably start to build some higher pressure up again. But that's a long way off, and there's quite a bit of discrepancy, you know, between the two models about that. So thing to concentrate on, I think, is rest of September, which is a breaking down the ridge and turning more unsettled, and probably turning cooler as well. And then we wait to see, you know, what happens as we get into October. Right, that's it for JMA Friday this week. It's just a snapshot of what models are showing. So remember, any forecast beyond 5-7 days comes with big health warnings and large pictures of salt. Just a snapshot of what models show today. They could look very different next week when we do JMA Friday again. Next week. We'll find out tomorrow what the ECMWF makes of all of this, because we'll do the EC 42-day/6 weeks forecast for UK and for Ireland tomorrow morning. That'll be released tomorrow morning. So it'll be interesting what the ECM has to say about that. But that's how JMA Friday looks this week. We're going to be back shortly with the 10 to 14 day, but it's going to include all regular features as well. So will we see signs of autumnal weather in the short range? You'll find out a little bit later on this afternoon. For JMA Friday for this week, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.